something happened when I was going on this business journey, okay? It was pretty rocking for a while, the Modern Warrior. Like you'll remember it, Arno, like there was a solid group of people and people were getting serious results. It was a cool thing and there was a vibe around the group. And we were having no issue filling up calendars and people raising hands and wanting to come and get involved. And about 2 years in, I started to lose the passion for it. I'm only literally 2 years into my purpose in life, helping and leading people. And I started to get distracted. I started to invest lots in crypto, and that started to take a lot of my focus. I stopped wanting to really engage with the people that I was working with. And I became more interested in systematizing the funnel and maximizing profits and numbers. And the essence of what I was teaching started to change. It became less about the hero's journey and this deeper meaning to what we're all doing, which is often the fire that ignites someone into the necessary action. That's a big thing for people when you are aware of the fact that you're actually on a mission here and you've got some serious work to do and you're in the right place. It's an incredible sense of power that it gives you. Instead, I was talking about funnels and numbers and sales systems and crunching things and and it got a bit stale and it got a bit stagnant. Why was all this happening? Well, to isolate it to one thing is difficult, but I was in a pretty bad relationship actually. And there was a lot of dysfunction going on in my house. And I was dealing with the dysfunction by trying to kind of make work this sort of controlled environment where I can block out all of this stuff that's going on. So if I can busy myself and I can systematize everything and control everything, then I don't have to face this demon that's in the room. The demon that was in the room is that I'm not in a healthy relationship and my entire system knows that, but I don't want to face it. I don't want to break it. Why? Because there's something underneath all of this that's gluing it all together. There's some deep existential fear that I don't want to meet. And so I was clinging on. I was clinging on and I was trying to hold everything together. And it was unsustainable. And it all kind of came crashing down at one point. And I basically ended up leaving my relationship, going to Brazil. And I showed up in Brazil and went straight into these really two deep, really intense workshops for about a week long each. It was about 14 days in there. Now, this is really radical work. I never would have sought this thing out myself, but I had a connection, this guy I knew in Brazil, still a very good friend of mine. And he just said, come. And it's the most radical, bordering on cult-like radical, the work that they're doing. I'm not involved with those guys in any way. But it was really intense. Like you're going into this room where people are screaming and crying and roaring and going into all kinds of trauma for days on end. And I was so resistant to it. But after about I think it was after about 6 or 7 days, I completely cracked open. Like my heart completely cracked open and I just started crying. And the tears brought me somewhere incredibly deep. And it was to this feeling of just being totally heartbroken. I was totally heartbroken since I was about 9 years old, since my parents broke up. And I'd never fully allowed myself to be in the pocket of that pain and fully go through it and fully feel it. And I've been carrying it around with me for decades, literally decades. And because I didn't want to meet that feeling, that grief, I lived upstairs and I busied myself and I tried to control everything. So what was waiting for me was pain. But through that pain and through that grief, which was a continued journey that I've been going on now for about 2 years. And this is why I'm not really here to coach business like I would have once might have. It's changed me. I learned how to feel again. I learned how to feel my heart and to feel sadness and to feel fear and to be with fear and to bring fear into my experience and befriend it. I've had experiences like I've gone back and relived my birth many, many times. I actually did it today for probably the 7th or 8th time. And during my birth, my mum nearly died. She was very, very close to dying. And so my first experience being cut, they cut into the placenta, right? They were trying to cut into the womb and they cut into the placenta. And so she was bleeding out and then they rushed the surgery, pulled me out. And so my first experience in this world was being totally fucking terrified. Where's my mum? And then, you might think an infant is totally unconscious, but there's blood going everywhere. Mother is unconscious. She's not here. What am I experiencing? Total fucking terror. Total terror. And that was her first couple of weeks in this world, was coming to. My first couple of weeks in the world was her coming to. So that was my first experience on earth, was total fucking terror. Total terror. And it's wrapped into, on the other side of it is just the most devastating thing in the world. The prospect that I might not get to have this journey with my mum. I might have to live here without my mum. And it's so incredibly grievous. It's almost impossible to feel it, how painful it is. And even though we were okay, and part of my journey has been reliving that and holding this infant in a way and showing him what really happened. That fear is almost like, in a PTSD sense, hasn't actually fully left my system. It still carries on. And believe it or not, most of the compulsion I find myself in, dysfunctional traits, or have done in the past years, I can attach to that core existential fear. That's at like the base of my being. So what I do today, I had a book that came out about 14 months ago, and it did over $1 million in revenue in the last year. In the last 30 days, I haven't looked at anything, and the business is still doing its thing. I don't have any clients currently. And there's all kinds of skills and systems and things I did to build that are kind of relevant and required. But they're, as far as I'm concerned, they're the easy part. They're the easy, learn the skills, learn the strategy, learn marketing, build a thing, get the hang of the math, understand ads, understand this stuff, and execute trial and error and get it done. And there's a lot of people teaching paths. But in my first couple of years, I sabotaged myself and everything I'd built and made. And I've also coached like a couple of hundred people through processes, and I've watched them get to certain levels and then crash back down. I don't see people taking those big leaps and every single year, way bigger, way more beautiful and expansive beings. I don't really see it. And I think it's because all this skill and strategy is really only one side of the coin. The bigger, deeper work that we are here to do, as far as I'm concerned, as humans, is deep healing work. It's deep emotional work, because your emotions run everything. And I think, to kind of circle back and make this relevant to what you asked around your path, Arno, when you have a deep connection to your feeling, your emotional body, your sadness, which shows you what you care about in the world, your anger, which shows you what to stand for and what you're pissed off about in the world and what needs changing. It's a mobilizing energy. Your fear, when not contained and fought with, and instead brought into your system and worked with, is this incredible guiding wizard-like energy that can unlock incredible states of flow and incredible magic in your life. When these things are flowing, you don't have such questions of like, what's my path or what am I supposed to do? Things are there. It's palpable because I think it's through these feelings that we connect with our own sense of being. And your own being is an incredibly powerful light, an incredibly powerful beingness that is just naturally, innately filled with purpose and overflowing with all kinds of juice that wants to come out into this world. It's just that we've got so much shit blocking it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what I work on mostly, and this is what I'm interested in
Yeah.
today. Yeah.
Beautiful, man. So first of all, thank you so much for sharing that. Um, and there's something that I want to touch upon. Of course, there's many things. But first of all, something I truly resonate with, and I've gone to many, many times, and I think most of the people who are here, self-sabotage, right? Why do we, I mean, of course, we are our own biggest obstacle in life, but we always tend to sabotage ourselves, and it's a big correlation, of course, to our own beliefs, to our own self-worth, to the story, the conditioned story we keep telling ourselves. Um, so I'm curious, like, what are your kind of like your biggest outtakes on like catching yourself sabotage in the moment, and how do you deal with that?
Awesome. I love the question. Um, okay, and I'm going to pick it apart. So, sense of self-worth. What else did you say? The story that you tell yourself, right? That was another thing you
Yeah,
said.
and
Okay.
your own beliefs.
Your own beliefs. Okay. So that we believe things, that there's a sense of self-worth. Okay. This
Hmm.
is interesting. You hear this everywhere. Okay. So as if we have a self-worth scale. Okay. This is the narrative, right? You hear this. My sense of self-worth. I fall somewhere like a fucking 4 or a 6 or something. Like as if that's there. Okay.
Hmm.
I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just asking questions. Is that what sense is self-worth some sort of cup that's X amount full or empty? That's an interesting thing. So, and then the stories that we tell ourselves, it might not be in there, but what I hear when I hear that is that it's conscious, that we are aware of the stories that we're telling ourselves. And I would challenge that.
Hmm.
I think the stories that we're telling ourselves are much more aligned to a sense of self-worth. Okay. I think as opposed to a scale or a sense of self-worth,
Hmm.
I think we have loads of stories that we tell ourselves, but unconsciously, almost entirely unconsciously. So there's a whole bunch of stories, and they generally will probably sound like something like, I'm not good enough. I don't deserve love. I'm a failure. I'm weak. I'm small. I'm pathetic. I'm disgusting. I'm a victim, which is an even deeper, more unconscious one. How many people think that they're aware consciously that they think they're a victim? Most people won't admit to that. And it doesn't align to this whole I'm not a victim, go, I can get after it personal development thing. So here's the next thing as well. So you said, how do I catch myself in the moment? I wouldn't advise catching oneself in the moment. That it's not these stories are not something that you try and control. They're not something that you try and push down. They're not something that you try and overcome. They're not something that you try and change, rewrite, recode. You've got fucking neural pathways that run this way, and we're gonna make a new track, and we're gonna keep reinforcing this, and we're gonna identify in this new way for 6 months, and then this old pathway is gonna disappear over time, and we're gonna go down this new pathway. Bullshit to all of it. Because if you imagine a gas bottle underneath water in a pool, and you just leave it there and you find loads of, I don't know, you just push it down and push it down. Is that gas going anywhere? No. The pressure is only building. The only way you quote unquote get rid of something, okay, Carl Jung had a great quote, until you make the unconscious conscious, The unconscious, conscious, it will run your life and you will call it fate. So that's sabotage playing out. It will run your life and you will call it fate. Make the unconscious conscious. What does that mean? That means I need to see and feel and experience I'm not good enough. I need to see and feel and experience I'm weak, I'm small. I need to feel these things. I need to make these programs conscious. And that is the only way that they start to lift. Because there's no inherent truth to any single human being not good enough. And I think most of us as adults know that, right? Is there any children that you can see in the world that you think you're not good enough? No. There's nobody that's not good enough. Everybody has value. But somehow we tell ourselves stories at some point in our life, for some reason, that I'm not good enough or I don't have value. There's many dimensions to the unconscious. So the first dimension here, we tend to be dealing with identities. So if you look at what we're conscious of, if you imagine an iceberg, okay, and then all that's underneath the water is what's unconscious, what cannot be seen on a day-to-day basis. What's sticking above is the conscious. So what we're conscious of is everything that we're experiencing in our day-to-day. And we might observe, I'm been stuck in my computer for like an hour and a half watching YouTube videos, or I've been going around this thought loop, or I'm in drama with this person, this compulsion. Okay. So there's that compulsion happening. Now you'll find the driving factor behind most compulsion tends to be this identity. There's something running here, like I'm not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then, well, even before that, actually, there is that I need to distract myself. I need to distract myself. I need to engage in this thing. I need to not feel. I need to busy my mind. I need to go to my head. These kind of things. Or I need to gamble, or I need to be in drama. These are all little decisions that are happening behind behavior. Often we think of behavior as this autonomous thing, and it very much is autonomous to the point at which the unconscious is making it happen, but there's still thought behind every single thing. Okay, or compulsive thought. I need to engage in this thing. I need to distract myself. Why do I need to distract myself? Because I don't want to feel I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. And so just that simple journey from compulsion to this first layer can take a huge charge out of whatever thing that you're engaging in that isn't healthy or productive. And then beneath that is where it starts to get really interesting, because you'll find that beneath deficient identities, there tends to be deeper pain. Often it's anger, often it's sadness, grief. And beneath that often is fear too. What you'll find about like this kind of journey that I'm kind of proposing here, like what I'm proposing is for individuals to take responsibility. You see, I've seen the thing that really moves the needle in business, particularly in most areas of life, is when you take responsibility. It's one thing that's very hard to teach, and it's very hard to encourage people to do. But when you really take responsibility for all aspects of business and learning the skills and learning the strategies and doing everything that is required to build a business, if you take full responsibility, there is nothing that can stand in your way. It's only ever going to be a matter of time if you fully commit to it. Well, true responsibility, true adult responsibility, it's not just about being responsible for all the things that I'm conscious of and I'm doing in the world. It's also all the things that are unconscious, unconscious choices I'm making. And in order to take responsibility for all the unconscious things that are playing out and running underneath the system, we need to be able to make them conscious. And so this is the territory I've been swimming in these past years.
Yeah.
It's trying to reintegrate all of this stuff and free myself from it. And it's amazing that when you do it, it takes time. It's a windy, dark road filled with lots of emotion and bubbling tears and roaring, but it creates, you have access to so much more possibility in your life. because these little deficient identities, they're like a lens in which you view the world from. So you can't see the $1 million in revenue that you can make this year. You can't see the incredible relationship that you might be in. You can't see them because these programs are running underneath the surface saying, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, 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 don't have value, don't have value, don't have value, can't do that, 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 can't do that. Constantly fucking running, eating up energy. You make them conscious and you make the pain that's underneath them conscious. And this is a deeper thing, and we won't go into it today because it's really, you're getting into second and third dimension work. But in the second and third dimension work, you'll find things like me being not good enough is actually an incredible survival strategy. Why? Because if I'm not good enough, then I stay hurt. And what do I get from staying hurt? Well, if I'm hurt, then I'm a victim. And what do I get from being a victim? I get sympathy from my mum. My mum's sympathetic to me when I'm a victim. And so what am I getting? I'm getting love and attention. And in order to get that love and attention, I need to be a victim. And in order to be a victim, I need to be hurt. And in order to be hurt, I'm not good enough. So I believe I'm not good enough. Yeah. And what do we, when we touch into this in therapy and stuff, and most of what we hear in the world, we'll see some sort of narrative like, I adopted a story of I'm not good enough because I was bullied and picked on, and therefore it was the external environment created that in me. And maybe that's true. And I'm not trying to invalidate that at all. But also, there's reasons for all of this stuff. I'm getting something out of being not good enough. I'm getting something. And so if I'm getting something, I need to figure out what that is and take responsibility for it. And instead of trying to get love from my mum in this deepest, darkest, unconscious way, and now seeking relationships in my life to get more of that, or seeking things in my life to create a sense of security because there's a deep void of security somewhere in my system, or fear, that's not taking responsibility for the stuff. And that's how sabotage will ultimately emerge. That's how toxic relationships will emerge. That's how you'll end up in burnout in business, because these things run the show. The unconscious runs the show. And until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
So by all means, if anybody would love to ask a question, there's a space for it. Grab the opportunity. It's right here.
Hi. Yeah, I do have a question. So what we were talking about today or tonight, and the exercise we did is something I've been experiencing in my life at this moment, I feel like. Sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm aware of it and I can navigate my life towards, getting out of this position where the external world is still validating my beliefs that I'm not good enough or something. Or it happens like this, that I'm good enough according to their standards, and when they tell me that I'm good enough, or with their behaviors, or and that's something I'm working my way out of it. But sometimes I wonder if I should do it like swiftly or if it's something I can manage in a more efficient way. Let me say it like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds like there's a few different layers or dimensions to your question, but just on the tail end of it, there was something around basing your own sense of worth on the information that you're getting from your environment, essentially what other people are giving you. And if there's a quick way to not derive my sense of self-worth from what other people are, the feedback other people are giving me, but can it be basically not affected by that, or come from within. That
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what I'd say first of all is that like everything that we're doing here, you would have heard mom and dad come up. So the reflection that you're getting from your environment,
Mhm.
I would say is likely actually when if you are feeling I'm not good enough in relation to some, or it's stinging some feedback that you're getting from someone, it's actually probably not about that person. It's actually probably about your mom or your dad or some important person in your life. And so the way through that is the work that we've been talking about here. Is so as soon as you feel that, here's a great opportunity. Okay, something just happened. It's things. Go into process. Go and feel. What story am I believing about myself here? Oh, I'm not good enough. Who is this in relation to? Mom, dad, bring him in. Oh, this is about my dad. Okay, and then maybe this hurt or sadness beneath it. This is really the process. This is the only way. It's kind of like through a cleansing fire of feeling again. And there's no way to shortcut it. There's no way to delete it, because this is a story that's probably been there for friggin' decades, like just literally there. And you have to work through it repetitiously, but it becomes easier. It becomes more conscious. And the more you make it conscious, what happens generally when you run these stories a lot, okay? So if we're in this exercise and we're going, we find that I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, and we cry it out a little bit and we feel it, you start to just almost drop into the space going, holy shit, there's a little kid here that feels like he's not good enough. And you can just naturally see, not with injecting any sort of high level intellect, but it naturally runs its course. And you're like, how could this kid be not good enough? You see that seeing, and that's the darkness coming to the light. And when you bring light to the darkness, it's freeing. And that's how the let go happens. It's seeing through and letting it run. So as long as that takes, like if you are consistent with this work, you can work through programs like this, dense programs in a matter of months, but you have to be consistent with it. That's the only way I know how to do it.
Mhm.
There could be other ways,
Yeah,
but
it makes sense. It makes sense because when I look at my behavioral patterns in situations that were like the one I'm experiencing now, like in the past, I would always like, like you're saying, respond to the external things, and my pattern is to cut everything off and to walk away from it. And I know by now that that is not the solution. And so something that does help me is to, like you said in the beginning, like being with it is something that never really resonated with me. But what does is to think of leaning in against it, because it feels like you said, it's like it's here. And I want to listen. I want to know what's going on because it's been going on for a long time. Yeah. Yeah.
love that. I love that. So you're really in a place where you can, like, it sounds like it's time. And the beautiful thing about these programs is when your consciousness is expanding to a certain level, and there's all of these programs underneath the surface that are not allowing you to shine or be in the way you want to be. This system is intelligent, and they ramp up and things get more intense because it's time to reintegrate it, and it's time to work through it. So I'd invite you straight, like, okay, some guy was being a dick. Yes. Okay, I'm triggered. Okay, triggered. Let's go into the bedroom, but and just work through it, and you'd be amazed. For me, I used to be fuming for like 2 days, like just, and now it just doesn't last at all. It's just I'm straight into it, straight into it. Okay, all right, that message pissed me off. I'm going into process. I'm good enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. Why? And just working through it. So you just got to embrace it and get used to it, and it becomes this thing. It's so much more of a relief feeling than holding things down. That's what you do when you do this work. You realize how much shit you're holding on to, and just creating some space around it is incredibly relieving. So there's just one question here from Trisha. I want to read it out real quick. Hi, have you ever gotten a past life regression done to navigate the grief that doesn't go away by taking any of the measures you mentioned? So I've had many past life experiences, and I'm not trying to get the grief to go away. I think there can be a lingering sadness and emotion that has some utility behind it. Like if I'm sad. And so one thing that is coming to me is that one of our biggest, we are born into this world to become adults. Okay. Just like a friggin' any species in the world, they come in and the parent does everything that they can to prop this creature up. And then the creature has to walk out into the world. And then that adult, the parent, fades away and dies. And it gets passed on. And so this is like, for me, it's as painful as it is beautiful, this act of giving that parents do. Even like in how imperfect they were, how many ways my parents fucked up, yet they gave me what they had. And I know that isn't the same for everybody. They gave me all that they had. And they're going to go. And through this work, I've come to like really feel and experience the love, like even the love that was in my father's firmness, in his preparing me for the world, in his pushing me from the back and teaching me things. Yeah. And I was a victim to it for a long time of like, I didn't receive any emotional space or acceptance of feelings or tools to navigate things or reassurance in terms of love. And I had these victim stories, but the more I worked into it, I could see all the different ways in which he actually was giving me love. And there was love in him pushing me out into the world and letting me go and fall over. It's a beautiful fathering. And so, well, I'm going to have children that come into the world. And these incredible things that were given to me, I'm going to get to pass on. And with new context and new capacity and new tools, and that love's going to come through. But these beings that brought me into this world are not going to see the ultimate fruits of what they did, that incredible gift they gave. That to me is like, it traverses my heart. It's an incredibly sad thing to watch them fade away. And it's not bad. It's in the same coin of that, on the other side of that coin of grief is this incredible love I have for them. And it brings me into the fickleness and yet the profundity of life. You know, the hero's journey that we talked about, where does the hero's journey finish? That's the question.
It's a loop.
Where does it finish?
It
Like,
doesn't.
okay, it's a loop, but when you get back,
The revelation.
it's very simple. It's so simple that you're not going to get the answer. Anybody know? The return to where?
Most of the time for me, it's coming back at the same spot, but you've gained a new type of level of perception, right?
Thank you. Yeah. No, you're going high level with it. Philosophical. Home. Finishes at home. You're in Belgium. I'm in Ireland. And I spent a decade traveling around the world too. And the beautiful thing about grief, and if anybody wants to dive a little bit more into grief, because it really is like, it's a very deep energy. Like it's very profound. There's a movie called Grief Walker. It's by a mentor of mine, Stephen Jenkinson. He featured in this in 2008. The Canadian Film Board did it. It's a powerful movie about death. But he'll really bring you into some of the things that we're touching on here with grief. One of the things that I'm really sad about is I'm home here, and I spent 10 years away, not immersed in my culture, because I had an image of a freedom lifestyle being cool and being all you can be and traveling around the world and doing cool shit. And I felt empty and hollow in most of it. And actually, the thing that I realized that I was missing was this holding thing. Because when you move out from your parents, it's not about becoming an isolated individual in the world who stands up on their own 2 feet with a whole bunch of other individuals. No, that's toxic individuality. You are held by something else. Becoming an adult is you step into the culture around you and you become a conscious participant, an adult of the culture around you. Now, I'm a fan for what we do online in these spaces. It's cool, but you are from a place. And if we're talking about reason and meaning, you didn't just choose those people, you chose that place too. Or that place chose you, which is a way I'd kind of choose to look at it. And I'm home now, and I feel very held here. And I feel also very deeply sad that I'd spent so many years away from here. So, where are your people? Because we can't do this alone. This is not an individual, isolated event. And where's your home and where's your culture? Because that's something that can hold you through this journey. Because we have to let go. You have to let go of mum and dad at some point. And so that's what I sense, at least for me anyway.
Yeah, I truly love that, because of course, on some level, there's things we're chasing, right? Or would love to achieve. But I love that sense of like simplicity you mentioned, of like just coming back home, and not per se location, but just back to everything that was fine to begin with, right? And that's something that's especially in this day and age on social media, that's so clouded by all these crazy lifestyles, and that's why most people are depressed, because they're putting themselves in lifestyles they actually don't really want to live, but they're not aware of it. They see all the bright shiny objects they want to chase, and you have to experience it to really know that that's not the answer, and that's a journey everybody has to go on some part in their life. But if you can skip all those stuff and really come back to the sense of self in the most simple way, that's the biggest takeaway for sure.
Awesome. Inger asked about some modalities. So I'm kind of fleshing this one out. And I really appreciate everybody giving me a space to experiment here as well today. If you get on my email list, I'll just check how to actually get on my email list, because generally it's when people buy a book, but I think there's a way to get on it for free as well.
By the way, I love that you said like appreciate to have you experimenting with me. That's one of the biggest lessons I learned, is to trust that people want to experiment with you as you're sharing your service, and as everybody's doing here, right? Everybody's just willing to join in the story of experimentation. So that's a lovely nuance.
Absolutely. I'm just going to drop a link in here. It's to my book, but you don't have to buy it. But if you go and add it to cart and you put your email in, you add it to cart, you'll be on my email list. So I might do a couple of little sessions to give some more of these tools out over the next couple of months and things of that nature. There's also something I'd recommend if anybody is anywhere in the world. There's a modality which is a very deep physical manipulation modality, but that will bring you deep into the emotional body. It's called Amine. They have a center in Belgium, they have a center in the States, and they have a center in Brazil. And you'll find practitioners in other places in the world, but there's probably only 100 practitioners worldwide. But if you want something that, if you really want to go for emotional work, that will help you crack open the doors to your emotional body. And besides that, just therapy in general, I'd recommend for people. Yeah, and there's a guy online as well called Scott Killaby, who's doing interesting things. Some of the tools that I showed with you are interwoven with his work as well. Some of it I got from him, some of it I got from Amine. So I check out those different things, and if you can participate in those things, like there's incredible tools out there. And I somehow believe this is the next stage of evolution of mankind, that these things have been coming up in the last 10, 20 years. When you zoom back 70, 80 years, 50 years, how many friggin' enlightened gurus is there around India and around the world in the last century? Like hundreds. And none of them talk about emotional work. None of them talk about anything that doesn't arise. It's what arises, what comes to awareness. What we figured out today is there's shit that does not arise. And you need ways to move into that shadow. And I think that's the next stage. And this is gonna, I'm getting very woo-woo now. I have to check myself. I'm Irish. Like, I don't like getting too woo-woo, but I am a little bit woo-woo anyway. So why resist it? But maybe this is the next stage of our human evolution, is integrating the shadow and what is possible then. I think a lot of the fucking dysfunction in society is denial of darkness and shadow, and we have, I'm the good guy, I'm the hero, and you guys are the villains, and we've got the right over here and the left over here, and everybody's shouting at each other, and everybody's trying to be on the right side. And I'm good. No, everybody's got a fucking shadow that wants to eat everybody else and destroy things and destroy you. Every single human has this. We're fucking monsters as well as we are incredible beings of light. So it's not about resisting and blocking, and it's about integrating. And I somehow think that's how we're going to get through this absolute mess, because it is a mess. It's a mess.
Yeah, and like you said, like I've experienced, I went to a lot of like quote unquote spiritual ceremonies, events. I've done a lot of stuff, and honestly, like I always say this to my mentees as well, I've met the most grounded people and most awakened people in the most basic or regular situations in life. Whenever anybody is preaching some kind of like enlightenment, I always in myself, I'm like, oh, please no. It's like you can have a beautiful conversation with someone in the street or at the bakeries or whatever, and they can enlighten you in that moment, right? And all these events where people are going to, and not to dismiss this for sure, play around, but going to Bali and all these stuff. And I've done some of these things, and there's nothing wrong with them, but don't look so far, right?
You've got it. It's
Yeah.
a lot of this boom is, you need this shit, and that's the same marketing ploy that's been infecting humanity and been the driving force of capitalism for the last 100 years. And you are also in this place where you are at the serious void because you don't have this stuff. And that applies so much to the personal development industry as well.
Mm-hmm.
Look at home. Where are you? It's a lot here. There's poems, there's mysticism in Ireland, and there is in friggin' Norway for sure. Whoa, like talk about an incredible place to come from, which, only really got taken over so recently as well by Christianity, 1,000 years compared to the rest of Europe. So wow, there's amazing jewels to be found where you're from, and we're all right where we are. Okay, the world's fucked up, and we're also good enough right now. So just start here and do what you can.
All right, beautiful. Any last questions?
Whoa, we just got a huge one in here.
Yeah, I just saw it.
Do you want to read that, Arno?
Yes. As you all speak about grief, this arises and felt like sharing. After losing my little sister, I started to feel more my experience in this life. Grief after grief in this past 6 years has awakened me more. I've been practicing this state of meditation, but I still have fear and doubt at times. I also have vivid dreams that have led me to know what comes up or if someone is going to pass away. Also, my intuition has grown stronger with which is all I am, leads by right now. At times, I find myself asking and wonder why I heard my sister calling me after she passed away, like if she was telling me to go to her, like she needs something. It can be just a reaction of grief, but it feels much more than that. I move through my grief and I try my best by being a mom of 3, yet I feel disoriented at times. Am I supposed to share what I know and experience, or is this something just for me as I grow? I feel at a higher self-consciousness, but I'm always learning, so I don't know it all. There's a lot in there, for sure. So first of all, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. Thank you for your vulnerability and honesty. It's a beautiful thing to say, and it's an incredible.
Especially a shout out to everybody in here who has children. There's a couple of people I'm working with who also have children, and that's a whole other level to be working on your own life, but also guiding little nuggets that are walking around and are clinging up on you 24/7. So huge amount of respect for that.
Can I speak to one thing here? So there's a question in here about, is this my gift to share? And it's a great question, and maybe is the answer, and that's something for you to figure out yourself and to choose for yourself, I'd say. You have 3 kids that you're responsible to, and one of the most beautiful, incredible gifts. Is there a more incredible gift than being a mother to children? And like, wow, like I don't know. I don't know. So I'd say sometimes there's a pressure from our environment that we need to synthesize what we've been through, and it's from our story, and then that becomes our gift to the world. Doesn't always have to be that linear thing. Like, not every single human being is here to be a teacher. Not every single person is meant to be a coach. We've got 8 billion of us. What if everybody was coached? That just wouldn't make sense. Okay. So it's for you to figure out and for you to decide. I would say that when you're giving, you want to give from a full cup. So you don't want to give when you're trying to give from a very leaky cup. It's not that you need to be perfect. You definitely don't need to be perfect, but you want to feel like you're okay and you're held at least in some capacity. So I would, like, if you're stressed with your kids or these kind of things, or life's really up against you, I'd look to having community around you first and foremost as a supporting nest, and that be a bedrock. And if you feel good from that place and you feel like you've got something to give, but take care of yourself first. Paul Chek, who I mentioned before, this is a beautiful model. He calls it I, we, all. So I first take care of myself, and then I take care of my community directly around me, or my family. Okay. And then the greater good. If I'm really empty here, I can't really do much for everybody else. And you'll end up being in a kind of codependent relationship with it. So I've taken a long time to get this work out into the world, what I'm touching into today. And a lot longer than some people people that were in my world kind of were nudging me too. But it didn't feel right until now. And I needed to take care of my own business and my own stuff and work through enough till I feel I had the capacity to be able to hold space for others to go through process as well. So take care of yourself and don't feel like there's any shoulds here. There's no shoulds with it. It's what you feel is right for you. Yeah. I'd add that in the same way that when Arno said, how do you kind of address something earlier on when a sabotage came up, how do you address it in the moment and get back to being your best self? And the question I posed was that, like, it's not about, and I know he didn't infer that, but what came up for me was like, you don't want to, it's not the goal to try and get rid of it. It's instead, what's the opportunity? So you begin with, what about aligning myself? That's the solution. Is that the solution? I'd ask a better question. Is that the solution? Sometimes I feel like I go back to the start of my journey. Here's the other question. Why are you going back to the start of your journey? What hasn't been felt? What hasn't been integrated? Why are you getting the same lesson over and over again? Almost always, they're not difficult answers. It's something unintegrated down here that needs to be met. And so everything that we've been talking about here, if you're circling, looping, find out the cause of it. It's down here. It's in here.
I think maybe this is a good time. We've gone above our time a lot, so thank you again, Chris.
Absolutely. Alexander, you look like you've enjoyed yourself, man. Seen a few smiles there.
Yes, I did. Actually, quite a few memories from the past. I also have father who passed away 25 years ago. So I don't really remember a lot of his preachings, but there was a moment which just basically put me where I am at the point that I am at the moment.
Awesome, man. Love it.
Participate. Thank you for being here. Thank you, everybody else. Maria Brill, Stehara, Catalina, Inger, Adriana, Jonathan, Michelle, Una. Ona or Una?
Ona.
Una. Okay. We have Una in Ireland as well. It's a very common name here.
Thank you for everything.
Yeah.
I have a question. I'm going to Scotland in a month. Is going to be the weather like that?
Scotland's not Ireland now, Missy, right?
I know, but it's well, the weather maybe is
Yeah, I mean,
similar.
it's further north than here, so I wouldn't be expecting to be having your rubber ducky on and going to the beach. I'd say.
Well, I'm in Mexico, so my weather is really different.
I have no idea. I mean, 4 seasons in a day over this way. Before these storms came in Galway here in the West Coast, we had 2 weeks of sunshine and crystal clear days and little speckles of snow. It was gorgeous. And now it's like fucking Thor's hammer is coming in and it's just madness. So, you know, who knows? Let's see
Expect the unexpected.
see how the crow
Oh
flies.
yes, I'm open to that.
Yeah,
Thank you a
Awesome.
lot. I really enjoy it.
beautiful. Nice to have you here. Okay, guys, thank you very much.
All right. Thanks again, Chris. Thanks everybody for joining in. And we're connected, right? So if you have any other questions, feel free to send me a DM through Instagram, whatever. I'll make the time to respond to anything. And I'm happy that you've all joined this session. All right. Catch you later.